The squad announcements are coming thick and fast now, aren't they? The November test just around the corner, and Andy Farrell has named what will be his last Ireland squad until this time next year, because after these test matches, Andy Farrell will leave his role as head coach of Ireland temporarily to take control of the British and Irish Lions. And so they will want to make sure this is a really strong end to what's been a great year for Ireland. Six Nations champions already, did themselves proud on that tour in South Africa, and now a chance to defend their home turf against teams from the Southern Hemisphere that are visiting. And they've got some big fixtures as well. Obviously, that's quite a difficult squad to read just from a list. I think there's some really interesting talking points from it, so I'll take you through. I'll go position by position and suggest what I think Ireland's strongest 23-man squad is. If you disagree, that's what the comments down below are for. Please get stuck in there, give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe as well. And yeah, Ireland, well, actually, before I get to that, let me just say, they have got 4 matches coming up, starting, what a match it's going to be. The 8th of November, that is a Friday night. I love the idea of a Friday night, under the lights, in Dublin, against the All Blacks. That should be spicy. Another Friday night game against Argentina the week later. That's going to be pretty big as well. Games between Argentina and Ireland are always entertaining. Fiji might be an opportunity where some of the younger, less experienced guys come in and get some rugby before finishing up against Australia to round it off. That's a cracking bunch of games, that, isn't it? And you just saw, as well as the squad, you just saw that picture of Caelan'S, and that's probably one of the big stories. Captain Caelan. And he led the Irish team over the summer against South Africa and did it brilliantly, but wasn't officially the Ireland captain. He has been given that role more officially now, and it looks like he's going to lead the team on at least this World Cup cycle, and he is a talismanic figure for them. His captaincy hasn't affected his performance. He was absolutely immense against South Africa, and I genuinely think if I were picking right now, and obviously the games this November are going to have an influence on who wins World Player of the Year, this guy has to be a contender, And if I were picking right now, my 3 nominees would be Oxenche, Pieter-Steph du Toit and Caelan'S. He has been magnificent. And yeah, he is everything that's good about Ireland in the last few years. He has been at the absolute heart of, so that's great. Peter O'Mahony, the former captain, he is in the squad and rehabbing at the moment. That's a guy that's really growing into one of the best players in the world, and I would argue the best number 8 on the planet. But there are some young guns coming through. 2 uncapped players in the squad. Cormac Isachukwu from Ulster. He looks a rare talent, really athletic, and he puts it about for a young lad as well, and has done really well. And Sam Prendergast, the Leinster fly half. A lot of people were saying and have been thinking for a while now, this is the natural heir to Johnny Sexton's throne for Leinster and for Ireland. Obviously, Jack Crowley's done really well, and Kieran Frawley is making some people think twice about that. But Sam Prendergast is not there just as a kind of an academy. What do they call it? Training panelists, they call them. And they've got 5 of those training panelists in the squad. That's where how Sam Prendergast has been involved in the past, but he's in the squad proper now. And that's really good for him, in with his brother Cian, who's one of the back row players. The emerging Ireland tour that's just come back from South Africa looks to have given some good experience to some of these young guns, and we'll see what they can do. And the other big story, as far as I'm concerned, from this Ireland squad is the relief that Irish fans must be feeling about seeing both of those names in the squad list, because Ronan Kelleher and Rob Herring have been out injured. Dan Sheehan, we already knew, was going to be out injured and would miss the autumn internationals. So you were getting down to 4th, 5th and maybe 6th choice hooker. But as it is, you've got 2 really experienced campaigners. I mean, British and Irish Lion, Ronan Kelleher, and he's still relatively young as well. He's got a lot of rugby ahead of him. And the experience of Rob Herring as well. That's 2 guys that, in the absence of Dan Sheehan, they can be pretty comfortable with. Back to the squad then, and yeah, there's a mixture. I mean, some people have criticised Andy Farrell's squad, saying I've seen some of the comments saying, oh, it's quite a safe squad, but is he being a bit conservative? Do we need to see more young players coming through to get them experience? I understand people talking about that. I think I have two thoughts on that, though. One, people, I think, maybe focus too much on Rugby World Cups It's not all about the Rugby World Cup, yes. And hey, Ireland know better than anyone. It's about performing when the Rugby World Cup comes around, and that is absolutely what Andy Farrell and every Irish player and every Irish fan is going to be focused on. But one of the ways that you arrive at a World Cup in the sort of form that will go on and win it is by winning as you go. And winning every game is important. And also the experience that guys like Cian Healy, Conor Murray, yeah, they may not be. Probably in the case of Cian Healy, almost certainly won't be at the next Rugby World Cup. Conor Murray, probably the same, although he's actually playing quite well. But the experience that they bring, and they can still do a job, or Conor Murray particularly can still do a job. I do think Ireland have a bit of an issue at prop, and I can say that as an Englishman because exactly the same situation. There are good young players, but they're not at international standard yet. And Cian Healy, I wonder if there's a little bit of sentiment in that selection because he must be closing in on Brian O'Driscoll's record appearances for Ireland, perhaps. And also, is Tom O'Toole? In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll go through the actual team bit by bit. But I just wanted to say that I don't think it's conservative or safe of Andy Farrell. Let's not forget, this is a team that has been one of the top 2 teams in the world for the last few years, and they've been winning Six Nations and Grand Slams, and winning tours in the Southern Hemisphere, drawing against the world champions in South Africa only a couple of months ago. So of course you keep things fairly steady, although there are, as I said, new players coming in. Cormac Isachukwu, one of the really exciting ones. But in terms of the squad, props, there are 5 of them. I do think there's a lack of quality and depth. But you've got Andrew Porter and Cian Healy at loosehead prop, Tyg Furlong and Finlay Bealham at at loosehead prop, Tyg Bealham and Finlay Bealham at tight head prop. Tom O'Toole, tight head, but is he still moving over to loosehead? Do you know? That's what I heard. That's what people were saying. Has he been doing that? Let me know in the comments down below. Second row, so strong. Tyg Byrne, Joe McCarthy, Ian Henderson, Ryan Baird and James Ryan. That is class. Back row, you've got 2 natural 6s in Peter Omani and Cormac Isachukwu, an out-and-out 7 in Josh van der Fleer, amazing 8 in Caelan', and 2 guys that can play anywhere in the back row, Cian Prendergast and Nick Timoney. Scrum half, brilliant. Jameson Gibson-Park, Craig Casey and Conor Murray. Crowley and Frawley are your 10s with Prendergast as well. Centres, again, just like second row, so good. Up there with the best stable of centres in world rugby. Bundy Aki and Stuart McCloskey, Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose. With Jamie Osborne, who can play there, but I suspect will be more of a utility player used maybe at fullback, potentially. With wingers, and I love this about the wingers, Lowe, Hansen, Nash, Stockdale, and how good to see Cubed in the squad, playing really well for Ulster. Could he get a start? I'll get onto what I think the team will be in just a minute. But Lowe, Leinster, Hansen, Connacht, Stockdale, Ulster, and Nash, Munster. I love that. 4 wingers, 1 from each province. That's good to see, and I hope that in the years ahead you see a little bit more of that. That'd be good for Irish rugby, wouldn't it? And fullback, the always reliable, metronomically brilliant Hugo Keenan. And like I say, Osborne and Frawley can step into that 15 shirt. So that Ireland are in a great place. With a couple of little stars, asterisks, prop, still an area. But there are some young guys that are involved in the wider squad. Guys like Jack Boyle that could step up into that role. As for a team that I think Andy Farrell would select, if I were picking 23 men, this would be, for me, the strongest 23 that Ireland could select. And I would love to know if you disagree. I think I'd say 6 or 7 out of the pack are automatic selections. Porter with no Sheehan Kelleher, Furlong, McCarthy, Tyg Byrne and Van der Fleer and Doris. But it's a question of how you do the 6 jersey. I thought James Ryan was fantastic against Ireland and actually was a bit of an enforcer for them, as well as Joe McCarthy, really physically stepped up. And so I might be tempted to go Tyg Byrne at 6, although Nick Timoney, Ryan Baird, you could have Ian Henderson in at second row as well. There's good options there. That's what I would go with as the pack, really physical and abrasive. And then the back line pretty much picks itself. Although I will just say on that, would you go with Mac Hansen? He hasn't played a lot of rugby, he's been injured for a while, and he hasn't looked quite back to his best yet. but he's a big game player. So do you bring him in? Maybe New Zealand is a bit too soon for him, and you bring him in for Argentina or Fiji, maybe Fiji and Australia. He definitely wants to play against Australia, doesn't he? His motherland. But Stockdale's been playing really well, although he's more of a left winger. Nash looked really good. Actually, to be fair, for New Zealand, probably I would guess Andy Farrell might pick Calvin Nash on the right wing, although I know how much he loves Mac Hansen, as do I. Ireland are in a good place, and bring on the November Test matches. Right. Yeah, I haven't even mentioned where I am. Yeah, for the next few days, I'll be doing some videos, not from home, but I'll be wherever the rugby stories break, and wherever I am, I'll do a video. But I'm currently in Greece, having a little bit of a break, and I'm going to go off for some dinner now. I'll see you on the next one.